Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Sakshi Korde, and I am a PhD candidate at Wilfrid Laurier University up in Canada. And I'm very excited to be here and to be sharing my research. My general research interest is to understand how technology interactions impact self-perceptions, our self-identity, and how we see ourselves in general or how the technology makes us feel. In this particular project, I'm looking at how the language used by LLM creates this perception of being understood and how that has downstream effects on persuasion and confidence in decision making. So this is a project in collaboration with my PhD committee members and also my job market paper this year. So yes, very exciting. So early this year, we as a family decided that we needed a second car. And because it's a car, we really went down and started doing all the research. So we were looking at which models, which features, blah, 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 blah. And at some point, I realized that my husband had completely stopped using Google search. And he was only using LLMs for his product research, which was really curious. And he was essentially mirroring the market at that point. This year, 58% of the consumers have replaced their traditional search engines by Gen AI tools. Interestingly, there are also platforms which are now integrating with shopping interfaces like PayPal, Shopify, and trying to really move from search to purchase in a single click. So that got me really curious about, what is the impact of how LLM really presents products to consumers and how that impacts their downstream decision-making process. And at a very basic level, what ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot gives us is a recommendation list. It's a list of products with a short description attached to it. Sometimes it is 5 products, sometimes it is 10 products. But this is what has become a ubiquitous presentation format across all LLMs. If we go back to the literature and try and understand what do we know about how recommendation lists work, most of the research has looked at order effects, how the product should be ordered, which should be above, which should be below, how long the list should be, how short the list should be, what attributes should be included, what attributes should not be included. There's a parallel stream of research which looks at recommendation agents. Here, it predominantly looks at algorithmic accuracy, personalization, should the explanation be included as to why the recommendation is there in the list, and largely this research addresses a recommendation agent provides you a choice. Do you accept it or not accept it? So my assessment of this was that we understand what is shown in the list, why it is shown in the list, but how it is shown in the list has not been explored. Very specifically, linguistic cues embedded inside this recommendation list have not been explored, to my very surprise. In this research, I'm looking at specific 2 types of semantic framing. So when I say semantic framing, it's essentially the way of communicating which provides some contextual cues about the product. At very basic level, there is feature framing. It answers the question, what does this product offer to the consumer? It focuses on features, product attributes. And there's a second type of framing which seems to be ubiquitously used across is, who is this product for? So when the product is described, it gives you a context of who is the ideal consumer. This is ideal for content creators and adventurers. So these persona tags are what are contextualizing the product and answering the question, who is this product right for? So to understand how these formats are really being used across different LLMs, I do this comparison every 1 month because as the models change, how they use it, frequency keeps changing. So this was done last week. And what I do is I give it multiple prompts of different products and then assess to what degree this persona framing is being used. So in this example, I gave it a prompt. I want to buy running shoes under this $100. What are my options? And the same prompt to each LLM. And then I assess how much usage of this frame is there. So ChatGPT 5 is very strong on using this frame. So every product provides this tag. Whereas perplexity, which used to be very strongly using persona, has sort of moved away from it. We don't know why. So it seems like this framing is being used across by different LLMs inconsistently with no guideline as to what works better or why it works. So that brings me to my research question. The first is, which framing works better? Which is more persuasive? Which is preferred by consumers? If at all one frame does function better, serves consumers better, what are the psychological drivers? And finally, how do we deploy these framing styles effectively? We've conducted several studies, 7 so far, and I'm going to attempt and give you some evidence to answer some of my research questions. This is purely experimental work. In the very first study, we try to understand which format really works better. And so participants were invited, and then they were asked to enter a prompt that they are searching for Bluetooth earbuds. And after giving the prompt, they saw these options. And then they completed bipolar scales on a comparative bipolar scales. And it looks like overall, the persona frame does work better. So there's higher preference, there is higher persuasion effectiveness, better confidence in decision making, and willingness to purchase. And some of these shifts are more reliable and some of them are not. So in the second study, the obvious question was, okay, the persona works better, okay, but why is it working better? And my obvious thought was, it's perceived personalization, that people just feel that, yes, it's a tag, it's giving me user information, so it's perceived personalization. In this study, this was again a within subject study, and it was a repeated measure study. So they saw both type of framing, one after the other in countable balanced order, and completed the scale for perceived personalization. And we don't see perceived personalization. So consumers are aware that this is not a unique tailoring of recommendations to them. This is not customization. So if it is not personalization, then the next obvious question was, what is it? And this brought me back to a conversation I had with my husband when we were looking for the car, that I asked him, why are you moving to ChatGPT at all? Like, why are you giving up on Google? And something he said, and probably you've heard this also, he said, ChatGPT understands me, it gets who I am, or who it gets me. And I was like, it's an AI, like, what are you talking about? But it seems there is something there. So something in the language that ChatGPT or any of the LLM uses, this creates this perception that we are being understood, our needs and preferences are being understood, and that enhances persuasiveness of LLMs. So we introduce a new construct, which is perceived consumer understanding. It's not completely new. We define it as consumer's subjective sense that the recommending source understands and validates their goal and identity. So it's a metacognitive construct. It talks about what I think you know or think about me. So it's a metacognitive construct, and it's grounded in interpersonal relationship, that is partner responsiveness theory. So there is an established construct called felt understanding, and we adapt that construct to this context. And one very important antecedent of felt understanding is self-concept validation. So when an interaction partner allows us to validate our identity in that context, it enhances this perception of being understood. And this argument is also supported by self-verification theory. In study 3, we now assess if our theory is really right. So here we did two things. This was a between subject study. So at any point in time, participants only saw one format. We also did another thing. We said they were interacting with a fictitious Mindy.ai because I wanted to control for ChatGPT. Like if you're already a user of ChatGPT and have these perceptions, then I wanted to control for that. So they were interacting with a fictitious Mindy.ai. And the protocol, the paradigm was enter the prompt, and then they viewed the output, completed the measures, there was a filler question, and then they went to mediator. So as we expected, perceptions of understanding did enhance when this persona framing was being used. The mediation shows that it was also solely mediating the effect. We ruled out mental simulation, which accounts for the narrative element of the language. And we also ruled out processing fluency, which accounts for the added information angle of this additional persona tag. The next question that I was asked is, does this work only if LLM does it? No. So we did a 2x2, and we found that this works even if a human is doing it. So my conclusion from this is that LLMs are essentially learning this from bloggers, from marketers, and then applying it widely to consumer-facing interactions. So it's learning our persuasion tactics from the online content and then applying effectively. In the fifth study, we provide evidence that it is indeed self-concept validation. So here it was, we recruited only people who had a salient identity, that they are a very serious physical fitness enthusiast, and then they were either put in mismatch condition or matched condition. At every point in time, the list was constant, the description of the product was maintained constant across condition, only the personas were varied. And we find that yes, when there is matching, the understanding goes up, and the mismatch, when there's mismatch, we see this backfire effect. So there is that self-concept validation that is occurring. So we try to understand our three questions. First, persona frame does work better, and it does work irrespective of the source. This language seems to increase this perception of understanding. And finally, this effect only occurs if there is a match between the salient identity and the persona. So going back to my car example, ChatGPT almost convinced us Tesla was the right car for us. It's a fantastic car, but I'm Canadian and we did not buy Tesla. I wonder why. But so yes, this matching is very important. So going to my contributions, we first provide contribution on language usage in recommendation list, which has not been really looked at. We also explore this semantic framing, persona versus feature frame, and we provide a relational mechanism to persuasion in this particular context. And finally, we add to discourse on how persuasiveness of LLMs is enhanced, and that has ramifications for ethical use of AI as well. In terms of managerial contributions, first, we show that you can create relational and perceptions of being understood without actually sharing any personal data. In any of our studies, there was no personal data that was shared with the LLM. So while it reduces privacy risk, and true personalization is very hard to scale, very costly. So this might be a simple lever for firms to really explore. We also show that this has some caveats. It has to be a good match. What does that mean? That means the recommendation list, when they're using personas, the personas have to be diverse enough that it captures somebody's salient personas. So it has to be diverse set. And from a firm perspective, I think it's a very important conversation about what kind of information about this product user fit is the firm putting out there, because it's important that it is captured by LLMs in an accurate manner and presented in the most optimal manner. So this information should be a critical consideration when firms are trying to do LLM optimization. Thank you. That's all I have for you today. I'll come.
Thank you, Sakshi, for a great presentation, and you also did fantastic on time, so you have some more time for questions.
Oh, fantastic. Because we were very focused on this particular, so there is a lot of lot of research on positive versus negative framings, and that definitely has effect. But in this particular study, we were only looking at this semantic framing of user product fit. So we didn't really explore that direction. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Hmm. In the prompting strategy itself, yes, yeah. It's so right now we've not looked at how so in fact, I have restricted also the type of prompts they give. So I only give them a choice of 4 to 5, because then I find that it really varies on how people change. Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, I will look in that direction. Thank you for that comment. Yes, thank you. Fantastic. Hmm. Ah, yes. Mm, right. Like platform loyalty is what you're getting at. Oh, okay. Mm. Ah, yes, yes, yes. Right. Absolutely. That's a very good. We haven't varied the platform. We've kept it constant across conditions so far. But that's a very interesting. Yes. But that's a very interesting angle to look at. Thank you. Yes. My guess at and this is purely guess, but because we don't really know what information is being extracted about products, right? Like we know some sources, like we know product descriptions from online platforms are being sort of extracted, and there's also like Reddit. Like for ChatGPT, Reddit is the most sourced platform, and there are many user reviews on it. So it's probably extracting this persona information from product reviews, consumer reviews, as well as product description. So from an optimization point of at the back end, I don't think at this point they have a strategy as to what should be used or how it should be used. It's really depending on what kind of information is available for LLM to extract. So if some firm's marketing and personas have been used forever, like it's been on the back end, and that's my guess why this framing has not been studied, because it was always at the back end. Marketers use personas to develop their ad campaigns, develop how to communicate, and it was never really like put out as content. But this shows that this should be done in a very strategic way, because LLMs are picking it up and using this format as a persuasive lever to drive consumer outcomes. So I don't think at the back end LLM has any optimization on this, but the firm should be aware that this could really help them in this optimization process.
Thank you so much. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.